سلافوي جيجيك أخطر فيلسوف حي اليوم.
I'm not saying that you should simply take Western notions of modernity, because Islam is for the Far Eastern nations already West. For us, it's already East.
No, I'm not here to push you into saying what you don't want to say. And I definitely don't want to cause you any trouble. I just want to know what you think.
The key is the West Bank. What Israel is really trying to do is to ethnically cleanse the West Bank.
My question to you here is not a political one. It is a hardcore philosophical and psychoanalytical question.
Do you need a good psychiatrist to cure you? Because if you are translating by less than nothing, then this is a serious kind of mental derangement.
مرحبا. سلافوي جيجيك أخطر فيلسوف حي اليوم، هو روك ستار الفلسفة. أوصاف كتيرة وصف بها الفيلسوف السلوفيني سلافوي جيجيك، البعض بيشوفها دقيقة ومعبرة والبعض الآخر بيشوفها سخيفة جدا، لكن بكل الحالات إن دلت هي الأوصاف على شيء فإنما تدل على شهرة هذا الفيلسوف الواسع. وطبعا هيك شهرة قلما تصل بهذا الشكل إلى الفلاسفة. يعني نحن معتادين يمكن على فكرة أنه الفنان هو المشهور، لكن فيلسوف توصل فيه الشهرة أنه يمثل بفيلم مع أوين ويلسون وسلمى حايك، فهذا الشيء أكيد غريب. لذلك تم اعتبار هذا الفيلسوف بحد ذاته ظاهرة ثقافية تستحق القراءة والتحليل وربما النقد. لكن من ناحية أخرى إذا دخلنا بالفلسفة يلي بيقدمها هذا الفيلسوف ممكن نفهم إلى حد ما سبب الشهرة. بصورة عامة جيجيك منع بمرحلة معينة من التدريس الجامعي في سلوفينيا بسبب آرائه السياسية، يعني الأكاديمية أقصته تماماً، وبناء على الضغوط الكتيرة يلي مورست عليه حول توجهه الفلسفي تماماً نحو التأليف الحر والكتابة الصحفية والمشاركة في العديد من الفعاليات والأفلام والمهرجانات. إضافة لذلك جيجيك بيكتب بكثافة شديدة عن فلسفة الأفلام والدراسات السينمائية والموسيقى الشعبية وظواهر ثقافية مختلفة. يعني النقد الثقافي عنده بيشمل كل ما هو حولنا من أبسط العادات اليومية إلى أعقد الظواهر الثقافية والاجتماعية. وقبل ما يدخل مجال الفلسفة كان بيتمنى يكون مخرج سينمائي، لذلك شهرته في عالم الإعلام والسينما غريبة، لكن مو كتير غريبة. من ناحية أخرى شهرة هذا الشخص كانت وما زالت محل نقد، لأنه في فكرة وأعتقد أنها نمطية وشائعة ويمكن كمان ما بتناسب هذا الزمن، بتقول أنه الشخص المشهور هو شخص سطحي، أو الشخص يلي بيظهر في الأعلام لا يستحق لقب المفكر، لأن المفكر لازم يقعد بعيد ويفكر ويكتب بعيدا عن الضجيج والكاميرات والأضواء. وفي ناس بيعتقدوا أنه سبب شهرته هو يساريته وآراءه الثورية المتطرفة، لكن معظم التيارات اليسارية بترفضه اليوم وبتعتبره يميني. هلأ المضحك في الأمر أنه حتى اليمين بيرفضه وبيعتبره يساري، وفي ناس ما بيشوفوه لا يميني ولا يساري، بل مجرد مهرج، لأنه بيحكي نكت كتيرة وما بيلبس يعني بشكل رسمي وما بيحكي بلغة منمقة وبيشتم باستمرار. وفي ناس بيشوفوه فيلسوف لكن بالمعنى الرخيص، لأنه بيحكي عن قضايا أحياناً تبدو سطحية ورومانسية يعني وبسيطة جداً، مثل الأكل والحب والعلاقات الجنسية. وفي ناس بيشوفوه عنصري أو عنده مركزية غربية بسبب آراء معينة أبداها في السنوات الأخيرة حول النسوية، حول ملف الهجرة واللاجئين في أوروبا، أو حتى حول ثورات الربيع العربي. طبعاً يمكن جزء من هاي الآراء صحيح ويمكن جزء منها غير صحيح، وبالنهاية كل شخص يقيم ويبدي رأيه الشخصي كما يشاء. لكن الغريب جدا في هذه الآراء هو يعني لما بيتم التركيز على كتبه الهزلية أو كتاب الإيديولوجيا أو الكتب ذات الطابع السياسي الطارئ، وبيتم تجاهل ما سمي في عالم الفلسفة مثلا تحفة فنية فلسفية، وهي كتابه يلي عنوانه less than nothing، إذا بدنا نترجمه بشكل سريع هو أقل من لا شيء، وحتى صار في له اختصار متداول LTN. جيجيك بهذا الكتاب يعيد قراءة الفلسفة الألمانية وبيربطها من جديد مع الفلسفة الفرنسية، ويعود أيضاً إلى فلسفة سقراط وما قبل سقراط، وكل ذلك بلغة حديثة تتناول أيضاً فيزياء الكم وعلوم مختلفة أخرى. وغريب جدا لما بيتم التركيز مثلا على مقطع تم تداوله بالفترة الأخيرة بحوار كان معه ومع بيرس مورغان.
I mean, they are no less than Arabs. They are today in the worst sense, fanatical religious fundamentalists. Yes. They have to be stopped unconditionally.
وبيتم تجاهل عشرات المقاطع الأخرى يلي قدم فيها أفكار مختلفة وتناقض ما قاله بهذا الحوار.
I even think that the Palestinian knives attacks now are a kind of Benjaminian divine violence, and I go very far here. I have a black friend from Rwanda who told me, stop being racist, and the beginning of ending your racism is please don't patronize us, admit us that we also can be evil of our own. My line is, are we clear here that for me, this that you find among some radical leftists, this silent dismissal of every critique of Islam as a form of Islamophobia, it's an ideological political catastrophe. It's not only giving weapons to anti-immigrants, it's always a racist, patronizing attitude towards the Arabs. There is a big problem. Yes, we have these disgusting Christian fundamentalists here, but everything depends on this, that we connect our progressive European struggles with their struggles. That, for example, that we find a common language between our feminist and so on struggles, their struggle for economic justice.
كلامي طبعا ليس هدفه تسليط الضوء على الجانب الثاني ونسيان الجانب الأول، يعني هو مجرد دعوة بسيطة لقراءة الأشخاص بكليتهم. كل الأحوال وأيا كانت آرائنا حول هذا الفيلسوف، نحن أمام شخصية فلسفية معقدة ومركبة جدا. جيجيك بيصنف حاله على أنه ماركسي، لكنه يدعو إلى عودة ماركس إلى هيجل، وبيسمي حاله هيجلي ماركسي وليس ماركسي هيجلي، وبيشدد على الفرق بين الاثنين. ولما بيصنف حاله على أنه هيجلي بنكتشف أنه هو بيقرأ هيجل ضد هيجل، يعني من زاوية شيلينجية، يعني تبعاً للفيلسوف شيلينج يلي كان عدوه لهيجل. ولما بيصنف حاله على أنه مادي بنكتشف أنه ماديته هيجلية وليست ماركسية، وهي من النوع المادية الترانسندنتالية، على عكس الترانسندنتالية المادية يلي ظهرت مؤخراً. طبعاً أنا يمكن عم أعقد الكلام شوي، والتعقيد بشكل عام غير مستحب ومو ضروري أصلاً بهيك حلقة، لكن التعقيد أعتقد بيتحول إلى ضرورة أخلاقية في وجه التبسيط والاختزال والتشويه. بنرجع لعند جيجيك اللي بيقدم نفسه على أنه هو مناهض للمركزية الغربية وبيدعي لسياسات تحررية عالمية، لكنه يرى أن هناك مشكلة معينة في الخطابات السائدة المناهضة للمركزية الغربية، ولذلك ما بيقدر يتبنى هي الخطابات. وبيقدم نفسه على أنه نسوي، لكن معظم التيارات النسوية بتنقده وبتشوفه غير نسوي، لأنه بيشوف أنه تعبير المرأة عن رغبتها ليس بالأمر السهل، ورغبتها بتكون غالباً رغبة الآخر. وبيقدم نفسه على أنه شخص غير مؤمن ولا ديني، لكن بنشوفه بيحكي باستمرار عن الله والمسيحية بصورة خاصة. وبيقدم نفسه على أنه محلل نفسي، لكن نتفاجأ بأنه ما في مدرسة تحليلية نفسية اليوم تتفق معه على اللي بيقوله. إن كان ممكن أني أوصف مشروع جيجيك الفلسفي بكلمات قليلة، ولو كانت هي الكلمات طبعاً تختزل الكثير، فممكن أقول مثلاً أنه جيجيك بيغير مواقع الصراع. فبدل ما يكون الصراع عنده مثلاً بين الذكر والأنثى مثل ما بنشوف مثلاً في بعض التيارات النسوية، هو بيشوف أنه الصراع بين الأنثى والأنثى، بدون إلغاء الصراعات الكبرى الأخرى مثلا بين الأنثى والذكر، لكن بيشوف أنه الصراع الذي يجب التركيز عليه هو بين الأنثى والأنثى، لكن ما بيقصد الأنثى والأنثى الأخرى، هو بيقصد الأنثى نفسها. فبيحكي عن الصراع الداخلي داخل الأنثى والصراع الداخلي داخل الذكر. وهذا ما بيعني أنه هو عم يساوي مثلا بين الذكر والأنثى أو عم يتجاهل علاقات القوة المتفاوتة بين الذكر والأنثى، لكن بدل ما يركز على الصراع بين الذكر والأنثى بيشوف أنه هذا الصراع يجب رده من أجل حله إلى الصراعات والانقسامات الأخرى الداخلية لدى كل منهما. الأمر نفسه بينطبق على ما يمكن تسميته تجاوزاً طبعاً بالصراع بين الشرق والغرب. هو بيزيح الصراع إلى داخل الشرق وإلى داخل الغرب بدون إلغاء أي صراعات كبرى في حال كانت موجودة. فمثلاً بدل ما يحكي عن صدام الحضارات بيحكي عن الصدام داخل الحضارة الواحدة. لذلك طبعاً هذا الشيء بيخلي أفكاره مرفوضة وغالباً غير مفهومة من جانب تيارات فكرية كتيرة. لهذا السبب ولأسباب أخرى أنا قررت أحكي معه وأعمل معه حوار قصير، دردشة قصيرة. هذا الحوار طبعاً ما حوار صدامي، ولا هو حوار للدفاع ولا هو حوار للهجوم. ممكن أنا أكون كتير مختلفة معه في نقاط معينة وممكن أكون متفقة معه في نقاط أخرى، لكن غايتي من هذا الحوار هي حقيقة الاستماع ببساطة شديدة إلى آراء وأفكار هذا الفيلسوف. يعني الحوار هو مجرد مساحة للكلام الهادئ بدون الحيل الإعلامية يلي بتسعى عادة للضغط على الضيف وحشره بزوايا ضيقة من أجل استنطاقه واستجوابه والحصول على المشاهدات. رح أتوقف عند هي النقطة وانتقل لجيجيك اللي هو أصلاً معي، وابدأ الحوار معه بأسئلة بسيطة وتمهيدية وننتقل تدريجياً للأسئلة الإشكالية. وبحب أذكر المتابعين أنه المحتوى يلي عم قدمه هو محتوى مستقل وجديد، لذلك يلي بيحب يدعم المحتوى بتعليق أو لايك أو سبسكرايب رح أكون جداً شاكرة وممتنة. Okay, I'm going to start right now, and I'm going to start from the very beginning.
You know what would be the beginning? You know, in
No.
the Bible, at the beginning was Logos.
The word, logos, yeah.
I think it's theologically a wrong answer. My favorite philosopher, one of Schelling, says, no, the big problem is what was there before the beginning. Was it some
I think
of
Schelling,
chaotic, not yet logically structured? Yet.
He had this theory of freedom, right?
Yeah,
I think he thinks
He
freedom
said,
is
I think,
before the beginning.
The big theory of freedom. I always oscillate between Hegel and Schelling. I'm basically a Hegelian, but I think Hegel can be brought to what is deepest in him only through the lenses of Schelling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Please go on.
Okay, it's just a simple question, but I'm personally curious to know your answer for this question. I've heard you many times saying that you spend the whole day working, reading, and even writing, and you even feel guilty if you don't do that. And actually, I'm exactly the same. I do philosophy every day. So my question to you here is, why? Why all that? What does it mean to you to do philosophy today? And how do you manage to write all these books, articles, and participate in all these conferences and talks and everything else?
Question, especially the last part. But let me go systematically through it. It's very strange because I am sorry to use this word, but even in Islam, I know it. You know that Muhammad is very interesting. He tolerates materialists, non-believers.
How?
He just said they should keep this for themselves and not preach it around. But Muhammad admitted, he said, you cannot be forced to believe. There are people who don't believe. Okay, just say it properly. You know?
Yeah.
So the paradox is that although I am formally a non-believer, I have a truly religious sense of vocation. A job is for me not simply a job. You do it for money, blah, blah. It's a vocation. Vocation in the sense of it's a very nice theological distinction that can be made here. I don't choose my vocation. My vocation chooses me. I simply experience myself as, even if there is no God, by some higher power, call it whatever, I was chosen to do this. And this spoils almost all of my life. Like, I only can relax myself and watch a good commercial movie if I promise to myself that with part of my mind,
You'll think about philosophy.
Can I use some scene as an example in a text of mine? But this is combined, maybe you read this. passage, I don't know where, in an interview that developed it. The paradox is that although more even writing than reading is my vocation, it's at the same time something that is for me impossible to do. The most horrifying idea that I can imagine is just to look at the screen, not your nice face but stupid letters and type. You know how that I consciously cheat myself. First,
How?
I write down the ideas which I already
Yeah.
developed. This line of thought, that line of thought. So I can tell myself this is not yet writing. I'm just preparing things.
And then you
at
do
a
it?
certain point, I say, but everything is already written there. Now I just have to combine. You see,
And edit.
it's all
Yeah.
structured to avoid the big moment of now I'm writing. It's like imitating God. I think we humans cannot do this. It's prohibited, you know. I have to do it like this. So that's my paradox. I work all the time, but always with some kind of a distance. Oh, I'm just getting ready. Oh, it's already done, and so on. But now comes to my crucial point, which you just briefly ended with, for me crucial. But why? Why I think this is so necessary? Because I think that the situation in which I mean it in a bombastic way, humanity it's a weird situation where we cannot simply rely on science or on any traditional religious dogma. In some sense, we all have to be, even if we are not, have to act like philosophers. Take our debates today. Take the big debate on is there freedom of a will? Till
Yeah.
50 years ago, maybe, 30 even. This was a purely theoretical debate. No,
Yeah, absolutely.
you can say, no, it's all a neuronal process. This is the famous thesis that freedom is user's illusion. We think we are free, but our decisions, even most elementary ones, moving my cat, are defined by neural processes. But today, it's no longer because till now, okay, that's my point. Till now, you could, in theory, advocate that you are not a free person, everything is predetermined, but in your daily life, you behave
We act otherwise.
exactly in the same way as others. Like, sorry for the tasteless example, I'm always tasteless. Let's say you were to flirt with a potential sexual partner. You wouldn't tell yourself, who cares? Why should I think it's all predetermined? No, you would behave as if, my God, what should I do? It's up to me to decide. But today, it is more and more becoming a practical question. You know what? I've written a book about it. It's not only Elon Musk. Everybody is doing. I learned from friends in India, in China. All the militaries are doing what? This direct connection between our brain processes and digital machinery.
Yeah.
So now it's not just a theoretical question. The point is to what extent our apparent free decisions can be manipulated by others, by computers, and so on. Another question, abortion. Now it's not just a theoretical question, but it is also a scientific question, like how many weeks till you can reasonably presuppose that what you have in you, a fetus or what, can already sense things and so on
It's
and so on.
essentially connected to
Not to
science, yes.
mention my favorite example, because it's the most obvious, ecological crisis. Okay, we feel it, like bad weather and so on. And I can understand people in Dubai because you know that I'm a radical leftist, but once a year with my son, I do some extremely sinful thing. For
Well,
example, 10 years ago, I got a special offer. It wasn't so. I got the smallest room, which was just 2 floors, 220
but
square
where?
meters in a Burj Al Arab hotel. That
Oh, wow.
where you so what I want to say is that you remember it was a shock to me. Now, a month ago, and then again 2 weeks later, they have flooded there.
Yes,
They had
absolutely.
literally
Yes.
flooding. It was all flooded. Nature is
Yes.
going, okay, but apart
Yeah.
from this, that's why we don't yet really believe in it. For majority of us, global warming is still a theoretical concept. Like,
To some people.
okay, maybe somewhere in the third world, we do not feel it. So, although people like to blame science in the sense of it is with our science that we disturb too much natural course and so on and so on.
I understand, yeah.
Yeah, but science is at the same time the only thing that can save us, I think.
Absolutely, yes. We do need
Because,
science in this case, yes.
even to define the danger,
We need
what is
science.
the real? We need science.
Yeah.
So I am totally opposed. And you see, these are already philosophical choices. You can be simply, in a bad sense, not authentic, religious. You can say, don't worry, God will take care of it. We are the privileged. Then you can be should I call this naturalistically conservative? You could say we were too active, we should withdraw to a more limited way of life, self-sufficient, and blah, blah, blah. I am also opposed to this option because I think that first, the problems that we are facing today in ecology are global problems. My example, probably you read about it, I mentioned it a couple of times. It was quite shocking for me because I was often there. You know, the southwest of Canada, northwest of United States, Seattle, Vancouver. You know that in summer, a little bit more than almost 3 years ago, they had temperatures up to 50 degrees
Oh, yes, yes,
Celsius. For
absolutely.
a
Actually,
week,
everywhere in the world, even here
Seattle
in
and
Germany.
Vancouver were warmer than Dubai and Emirates. You know.
Yes, even here in
Now
Germany, it's getting
now
warmer.
I know, but you know what's the problem then? You cannot say, oh, they should take more care of ecology. No, measured by these standard things that we do, they took care pretty well of themselves. They were ecologically very aware. The problem is that the entire circulation out of the northern pole is disturbed. And this is a problem which can only be, maybe it cannot be solved, but confronted at least through A, scientific engagement to know the coordinates, and B, international cooperation. Which is why,
Speaking,
please, no, you are right.
yeah.
My question.
Thank you. Speaking of which, actually, I mean, now that we're speaking about nature, I know you don't really like nature, since in your philosophy of
Yeah.
nature, nature is meaningless, it's arbitrary, and it's indifferent to us. So, could you please explain to those who don't know why you don't really like nature and why you don't idealize nature? And I have to jump in here and ask you a question for myself. Is there one thing, one item, one scene that you really admire in nature?
What I like in nature, I'm a each corrupted person like everybody. This means, there are things that you like, nice waterfall, sunset, blah, blah. But no, uh, now it's a question to what extent what I will describe now is nature. But sometimes it is. Please ask me, uh, let's imagine that you ask me the standard question if you were to be free of your environment, like I could have worked anywhere I want. Family, friends can move with me. So just because of the environment where I would like to live. It's two places. I mentioned them, maybe you know them. You know where are Svalbard Islands? Halfway from north of Norway to northern pole.
So you want to live
Halfway
there?
up there. And it's no trees, no grass, just some moss islands. And there is, you cannot even call it town, mostly wooden huts. And I would like to live there because
Very
you
interesting.
have half a year you have sun, half a year you have darkness, and you can establish your own rhythm. Like for 4 or 5 months, it's simply sun, sunshine all the time. And you know what I liked there? This
What?
is one of my ideal places. At the same time, I rested a lot and worked a lot, and and enjoyed my work. This for me is the best definition of communism. Where you rest a lot, but at the same time
Work a lot.
do the work in which
Yeah.
you know. It's as for nature, you know what's my? It's not that the nature is indifferent. My latest insight, it is not mine. Who am I? Which I read about, is that, and it's I think a nice observation. You know how people often get confused when we talk about global warming. We imagine it still in a too naive way, as if, okay, let's say temperatures on average rise for 2-3 degrees Celsius. And we simply imagine it as a new balance, a little bit more uncomfortable for us. Okay, some town close to the coast will be lost, drowned, blah, blah. But we will somehow just adapt ourselves to the new balance. But as many intelligent ecological sciences emphasize, what if we are entering a period where nature will be much more chaotic? We couldn't rely that it will be this usual rhythm, winter, spring, summer, fall. There will be a confusion. For a year, it will be all winter, then for 3 years, no rain. Nature will return to,
To chaos.
will be refashioned in a more chaotic way.
Yeah.
You know what this reminds me of? Did you see the TV series and the novel? I like it. Did Liu Cixin, the Chinese guy, Three
The
Body
science
Problem.
fiction writer. I didn't see it, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
TV sheet and novel.
Yeah, I
Chinese.
didn't watch it.
Communist.
I know it.
The idea is precisely this, that we humans get in contact with a civilization on a planet far away, which is precisely disappearing because nature gets totally chaotic. The second thing, I don't like this talk about rights of natural being. You know how far certain people go. For me, it's normal that all people have certain rights.
But
And
not
I would say
plants and
also,
animals, you mean,
obviously,
right?
apes, you shouldn't torture cows and
Yeah.
so on.
Yeah.
But then some people go so far as to say even priests have rights, even, I don't know,
Yeah.
some natural objects, rivers have rights. You know why I'm opposed to it? I am,
No, why?
extremely ecologically conscious in preventing suffering. I agree. But I think it's deceiving and in a secret way, even too arrogant to say, I don't know, other animals, trees also have rights. No, rights belong only to people who are in some sense free, so that they have responsibilities and so on. I don't think you can say that uh, animals or trees have responsibilities and duties. They are just are what they are in a very stupid way. So now comes my point. The problem with this idea that animals and so on also have rights is, for me, way too arrogant and anthropocentric. Because although people who claim this all the time like to emphasize that we are just one among the species on this earth.
True, yes, yes.
Yeah, but at the same time, they elevate us into privileged representatives of all others.
Yeah, to protect everything
it's the
else.
same mistake as with some form of white, especially anti-racism, who like to protect the rights of minorities, the Inuits, blacks, but at the same time, they posit themselves as the only truly universal beings who can take care of the rights of others. What we should not forget is that nature is not just simply indifferent, but that our basic idea of nature, although many people would deny it, is that nature means a kind of homeostatic, regular, balanced, repetitive movement. You have seasons in nature, things reproduce themselves. No, nature is crazy in itself. That's my favorite obscenity. I always repeat it. If nature is our mother, then this is not a good mother, but a crazy, dirty bitch. Because think about our source of energy, still main, coal and oil. Can we even imagine ecological catastrophes that should have happened on our Earth in order to have so much beneath the surface of coal and oil? So nature is not just stability. Nature can also be catastrophic reversals, which means I totally oppose the idea of we should become more friendly, collaborate. No, nature is also totally nature is totally catastrophic. I know it's unique how we, even if not purposeful torture animals. It's enough. Some of my friends here in Slovenia visited the biggest industrial chicken farm. I will not go into details, but of course, they can no longer eat chicken and so on. You see that. But also don't underestimate the amount of terrifying suffering, which is part of so-called normal reproduction of nature. So I'm just here a more modest and pessimist. We have no stable nature to return to. I think you know where we cheat. When we say we are just one among the species, we should take care that also our life world around us becomes stable. What we really mean in a very egotist way is we should take care that the world around us will remain fit for our existence. So it's really an egotist point.
Okay, I'd like to turn now to a different topic.
Absolutely.
It's a big topic and a big question, but I don't expect you, of course, to delve into details. I just want to know what you think about it. Let's call it here the East-West dichotomy, or maybe the East-West divide, the undeniable hostility that can be traced back to different political, cultural, and economic factors. How do you perceive such a divide, and how do you approach it from a philosophical view? And what do you think of the idea of a reconciliation between the two? And I'm now talking about a cheap cultural integration, and I don't mean with reconciliation, living in one big world where we're all the same, equal, and happy. I think you know what I mean.
You know, now I will say, but I'm not, if you come from Muslim world, I'm not trying to flatter you or whatever, but you know that I've written I think that in English it didn't disappear as a short book only in Italian and French or what, some Islam and modernity, where I
yes, it is
begin
translated
with
into English, actually.
something, a very interesting racist observation by Claude Lévi-Strauss, you know, the great
Yeah, I remember it.
anthropologist.
It's called A Glance into the Archives of Islam. It's translated to English, actually. It's available on Google.
Maybe, no, I don't know. I forgot. I'm too old to see.
I'm sure.
But what he said is this, that in a totally Western racist way, but accepted also by some people from the East, not Middle East, not Islam, Far East. They claim that East and West, by West they mean Christian modern Europe, by East they mean China, Japan, India, that like they sexualize it. They say that in a way they would ideally supplement each other in the sense that we have the Western more masculine principle against the more feminine, blah,
I
blah.
know, yeah.
But then Islam comes, Islam, because Islam is for the Far Eastern nations already West, for us it's already East.
So that was actually one of my questions that I was about to ask. Do you really think that religion, specifically Islam, is the one element that caused this East-West divide? For myself, I do think that it played a huge role for a variety of cultural and subsequently political reasons, but I cannot attribute the divide, this huge gap entirely to Islam. But it seems like you're saying that Islam is hindering any kind of a reconciliation. Did I get you?
No, I think it all depends. I cannot give you now, of course, a detailed analysis, you know. I can also be, I don't have any problems. I mean, if everything that I say would have been taken seriously, I would be proclaimed anti-Semite by Jews.
No,
I
I'm
will
not
be
here to push you
proclaimed-
into saying
I
what
will
you
get
don't want
a
to say.
fatwa from
And I
them,
definitely
but-
don't want to cause you any trouble.
No, I will.
I just want to know what you
Nothing, I
think.
will
If
not say
anybody
anything
is going to be in
problematic.
trouble, it's myself,
I will say
actually.
this, that first, this I agree, and not just because it's fashionable by some who are more pro-Palestinian to say this. I know this for decades. I will just tell you one wonderful story. Maybe you know it, I don't know. In late 1940, when Germany occupied France, no? Then Algeria in North Africa was French colony, also in this sense under Vichy regime, Hitler's ally control. And of course, the Vichy regime issued a statement that Jews are no longer regular citizens there, so they don't have a right to any stable property. If you have a car, okay, but no land, no apartment or house, so that any non-Jew has simply the right to take their possessions from the Jews. Now comes something that doesn't fit today's image of Islam. Do you know that the Islam authorities, there were a couple of them, but all in Algeria, issued a very honorable statement in 1940, late, prohibiting every Muslim to take anything from a Jew. And Muslims obeyed this. The only one who took it were the French, the Christian French. So what I'm saying is that we
Very
have to be
specific.
here very careful. Originally, anti-Semitism was a European Christian phenomenon. It's only when Europe tried to export its problem to the Middle East, which was hypocritical, like Germans today, you know, we killed 5-6 million of you. Okay, now we support you getting a state there. But this is as if I steal from you all your money, and then I say, look, that guy there, take it from him, not from me. The second thing I think today it's often misinterpreted as a fundamentalism, but it's very important. Here I see a chance for a new version of Islam. Not even totally new, just bringing out something that is already there. It's a very simple observation. I got it from a French Muslim psychoanalyst, Fethi.
The Tunisian French.
No. He's in France now, Fethi Ben
Yeah, he's
Slama.
Tunisian.
Yeah. He said something wonderful. He said that in contrast to Judaism and Christianity, which are both family religions, family in the sense that God the Father, Christ the Son, in Judaism and in Christianity, the reference is family, but not in Islam. Allah is never called Father.
Yeah, true. Right.
And so Islam is the religion originally of the orphans.
But-
you know the myth that son by Moses because Sarah couldn't get a child, blah, blah, blah. So, and then that wife who was his slave ran away with the guy who is allegedly the first Arab Muslim. So that's what I like. And I think we should abstract from today's racist connotation if you say Ummah in the sense of community, totalitarianism, Taliban. No, Ummah is for me, in some sense, very close to what Christians call Holy Ghost, Holy Theory. It's the egalitarian community of believers who are not constrained by any hierarchic family links. The third thing, you know, people always say, oh, and I agree, yes, subordination of women and so on. But even there, I studied it. It's much more ambiguous. For example, you must know this better than me, but people in the West don't know it. You know Muhammad?
Yeah.
When Allah first appeared to him, he thought it's the devil. And then his first wife convinced
Khadija.
him.
Yeah.
So men can gain big wisdom, knowledge, but only through feminine authority.
In
And
one
I will
sense.
give you another surprising example, which is usually quoted as the worst of Islam. I always quote this story. You know, in Australia some years ago, when a woman wife was raped by Muslims, some big Islamic clerk said there, but if you leave a piece of meat unwrapped on the street, and
the
a
cheap
dog
example,
comes and
the
eats
usual.
it,
Yeah. I know it.
who would you blame? The dog or the owner? Obviously, the owner. I think this is a perverted version of something much more interesting. The idea is that if you are a man, you are like a dog. You see a woman there half naked, let's jump on her. And it puts moral responsibility on women, as if the woman is the only one who has. So you see, that's how I try to see something emancipatory
reinterpret.
in religions. You know,
But
that even when they appear the worst, you can see how this bad aspect is a later perversion of something which is potentially emancipatory. Sorry, go on.
No problem. First of all, I'm not here in a position to defend or even criticize any religion or even talk about it exclusively. That is not something I am seeking after. However, there seemed to be a kind of misunderstanding, or maybe that something I don't really understand in what you just said, in what you always say about religion. For example, you're talking now about Islam. Which Islam exactly are you talking about? Another example, you recently published this new book, Christian Atheism, and you mentioned in it that Christianity is the religion of the death of God, which is something you always mention, as if Christianity is unified and one. And okay, I know that you're atheist, and you, when you refer to religion, you don't refer to it in the traditional sense. However, there seems to be a kind of essentialism in what you're saying. You're attributing an essence to Islam and Christianity and other religions. So which religion is that, or did I misunderstand you here?
Very good question. I will give you a brief and clear, as brief as possible, clear answer. It's not, I think that each of these great religions of the book, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, has an inner truth, I call it naively like this, which is too strong, too truthful for this religion itself. And then to understand the established religion institution, you should read it as a defense against this excess. For example, for me, maybe you know it, as for Christianity, no? My favorite quote, it's not true, it's invented, but it's nice. You know the story when Napoleon was crowned by Pope? Napoleon took the crown from the Pope and crowned himself. But you know what? Then it's an invented story, but beautiful. You know what the Pope told Napoleon? He told Napoleon, I know what you want to do. You want to annihilate, ruin Christianity. But believe me, you will not succeed because we, the church, are trying to do this already for 2,000
Doing the
years.
same thing. Yeah.
I believe the basis of my reading that each big Judaism, you have such profound insight. For example, this idea, it's a wonderful one, that God doesn't directly create the world. First, God had to create nothing. God had to withdraw into himself, open up the space into which then he can put objects. This is something which reads almost like pointing towards quantum physics or whatever. I will not even go into it how many of such deep insights there are in Islam, there are in Buddhism. I must say I have a problem with Hinduism. That's a problem because I think that the greatest tragedy of India was that after 400 years of domination of Buddhism, around the year zero of Christian era, around there, Hinduism returned. And so the Buddhists are now mini minority in India. But you see, this is my approach. I'm claiming that each religion is a defense formation against its own subversive core. And to redeem a religion is to, for example, in Islam, this ambiguity of women, many horrible things. But at the same time, if you read it closely, women are praised as much more moral. Men can attain a status of a wise man only through the confirmation not of another man, but of a woman, and so on. I like to read religions in this way.
Okay, let's shift now to another topic. There have been numerous attempts to modernize the Middle East with varying degrees of success and often facing political obstacles. People in the Arab region and in the Middle East say that they have their own version of modernity, whether well-formed or deformed, it is a version of their own. However, as everybody knows, modernity is a Western construct. Even the critique of modernity in the Enlightenment thinking is to a great extent Western. This fact poses a dilemma for non-Western modernizing efforts. Should they reproduce the West or surpass it? So my question to you is, do you believe that the Enlightenment as a thought and a political project can extend to non-Western cultures? Or is it inherently a product of Western political and theological thought exclusive to the West?
I think the only answer here is an ambiguous one in this sense. First, unfortunately, you must admit this. The West, in the sense of modern technology, effects of modernization at all levels, in some sense, it did already won. Take even a country like Saudi Arabia. The whole attempt of this, I always forget the three letters, the guy who is really the boss now. His problem is precisely how to use his partially pre-modern rule to modernize Saudi Arabia even faster. Aren't the Chinese trying to do the same? Isn't Modi trying to do the same? So I don't believe that the answer is avoid Western modernity. Because if you do this in today's world, you become an ultra-exploited colony. They will just take your raw materials and so on, On the other hand, I'm not saying that you should simply take Western notions of modernity. Till recently, by this I mean the ongoing Gaza war and some other events, I still thought, maybe I still believe a little bit in it, with all its horror, colonization and so on, whatever, world wars, there is something potentially emancipatory in so-called Western Enlightenment values, women's rights, equality, and so on and so on. But I think now, in the last decades, this is falling apart. That's, for me, the exemplary lesson of the ongoing Gaza war. After, now that we see not only what is happening in Gaza, it's a nightmare. My preferred masochist exercise is to you have some websites, podcasts, where you get a drone view of Gaza. Slowly, it's an unthinkable nightmare. And to say, oh, this is just it's
Just
an
a sad
exaggeration,
thing.
the Western
Yeah.
values are still good. No, this is in some spiritual sense the end of the West. And I don't believe in present decadence. Obviously, Western Europe and United States are also in I will use this very traditional hard word, social and moral decay. I don't think that Europe will be able to reinvent itself. I think that the reinvention will have to come. We will see, maybe for some Islam countries, maybe I don't believe from Latin America or wherever, but Europe, but then we are
This is
lost because
complicated,
you know
actually.
what is
That's not
happening
easy.
now, why I'm pessimist. Don't you think that the successful so-called third world countries, by third world, I don't mean undeveloped, but simply not
Yeah, I mean, I know what you
European,
mean. Yeah.
are now, although they are all very much anti-Eurocentric,
Yeah.
but they are now taking over what is for me the worst part of European legacy.
What's
strong nation state. This is what China is doing. Screw the Uyghurs, screw the Tibetans. They want to be a single strong nation state. India is doing this against the Muslims, Modi. So what I am afraid is that, yes, Western so-called values, human rights, and so on are universal. But if you ask me for something that gives hope, although they lost, I was absolutely enthusiastic about, do you remember, when was this? Now it's already how much ago? That big emergence of women's protests in Iran.
Iran, yeah.
First, the Kurdish young woman was
Yes.
killed. Then what's so wonderful is that it wasn't not in the Western sense, this limited upper middle class feminine protest. ordinary people were mobilized and so on. It was something unique that what began as a women's protest grasped the entire society. You see, this was not Western feminism. It was without all these politically correct stupidities, should we call them they or he or it or what? It was an authentic rebellion. And this is, if you ask me, this is my hope.
Do you think this rebellion is more authentic than the student pro-Palestinian protests today in the US and Europe?
More important, yes. Because with all my support for universities there, this is nonetheless very limited. It doesn't have a lot of support except among blacks and some Hispanics. While what happened in Iran was a genuinely popular movement of the majority. I more admired that. With regard to this protest, student protest, maybe you read it in my for Substack last article. I quoted the
I
Italian
read it, yes.
before Franco Berardi, who said that the sad thing about this protest is that he calls them protests of despair. They don't have any positive reason. Okay, they have stopped the war and so on. But their message is only, let's admit it, we are in a horrible situation. There is no vision.
But some people would say that what other options do we have, or that the protests combine people from different backgrounds and thoughts, and that they are not the same. Just like, for example, we in the Middle East, as we are stuck between different types of political Islam, oppressive regimes, and also occupation as in Palestine. So what would be the right thing to do here?
Corruption, and that's the biggest tragedy. I know, I was there. I met them. It's go to Ramallah. PLO is simply not taken seriously by majority of Palestinians on the West Bank. And here I'm becoming really a pessimist. People tell me, is Israel not seeing what they are doing? They are pushing Palestinians towards Hamas. I think, of course, they know it, because they want Palestinians radicalized so that then they can say, you see, we are just battling Hamas, and it's absolutely clear what Israel wants in this war. Do you know that that expression, which is now prohibited in Germany, from the river to the sea? You know who was the last one who used this expression?
Yeah,
Netanyahu.
Yeah.
He said, we want it now from the river to the sea. Because you know what bothers me? With all my sympathy for Palestinians, I'm, of course, always also absolutely not anti-Semitic. So what worries me is, are people aware what goes on now in Gaza? What will this do to anti-Semitism? Till now, anti-Semitism was more or less European phenomenon. In the last half a
As
century,
a phenomenon, yes.
because of Israel, a little bit among Arab countries. Now, anti-Semitism will become a worldwide phenomenon, an ideology of all the poor people in Asia, Africa, Latin America. This will be a tragedy for the Jews themselves. So I think it will be something horrible that I will tell you. I think that we have, and I don't mean it in a religious sense, we have to wait for miracles. By miracle, I don't mean a religious miracle, but remember, it failed. But do you remember Syriza?
Yeah, sure,
10
in
years
Greece.
ago when?
Yes.
Who would have, in Greece, who would have expected such a movement, democratically winning elections, and so on and so on? Maybe something will come out, but I doubt. At the same time, that's our trouble today. I don't believe in this too much, in this local democracy and so on. The problems we are facing today are global problems. We need more unity. That's why I still like the idea of united Europe. It's the unity of states which are pretty different. Some of them are even Orthodox, some of them are Protestant, Catholic. But the idea is that a certain set of values unites us, and we try to guarantee certain basic things, ecology, human rights, and so on. So I think that the enemy today is strong nation state, and we should overcome it in both directions: downwards, local mobilization, and upwards, international cooperation.
Okay, regarding what's happening in Gaza since October 7th, I don't want to ask you what you think of it, because actually we all know what you think about it. Neither do I want to ask you whether you condemn Hamas or not, because here as well, we know what you think of it. But I do want to ask you about the question itself. The question, do you condemn Hamas? And I do want to ask you about the nature of such a question. My question to you here is not a political one. It is a hardcore philosophical and psychoanalytical question. How does such a question, such a narrative, function in the media? And I'm 100% sure you know what I mean, since you're the one who theorizes the differences between questions of truth and questions of knowledge. Is it a question of knowledge, or is it a question of truth? So simply, what do you think of such a question?
I agree with your question. In what sense? My many Palestinian friends, they say they hate when they are asked this, because behind this there is a narrative, which is, the narrative is the situation was peaceful, everything was okay, then all of a sudden Hamas, the madmen, attack. Sorry, settlers, slow ethnic cleansing was already going on in Gaza, which is why I always emphasize that with all the horrors about what goes on now in Gaza, the key is the West Bank. What Israel is really trying to do is to ethnically cleanse the West Bank, either totally cleanse it ethnically, or South African solution. They already have a plan of 3 cities where you will put as many people as possible. Ramallah, Hebron is now no, and Jenin, but Hebron is already cleansed. So, uh, I think we have no right to ask Palestinians. This was a kind of almost philosophically, theoretical a priori. A Western journalist interviews a Palestinian and begins with, before we even begin to talk, do you condemn Hamas or not? No, today we have the right to say, do you admit that Netanyahu and his... No, do you admit 2 things? First, that Netanyahu and all those crazy guys around him, being weird Smotrich, are criminals, but also second thing, that even those who criticize them basically want the same thing, but done in a little bit more polite way.
Yeah.
It's more a question of projecting all the evil onto Hamas. You know who is here my hero? I quoted him, you must have read it. But it's very sad that you have to learn the truth from Ami Ayalan, ex-boss of Shin Bet. He said it's very simple. Palestinians must be given political autonomy. He even proposed Marwan Barghouti as possible partner. And he said the only serious way to our security is to give to Palestinians full political subjectivity. Isn't it bad? Now, I'm not anti-Israeli, but anti-European. You must know this from Germany, that once I did this in Frankfurt,
in the book
at
fair.
that unfortunate book fair, I didn't tell them, but I quoted Ireland, and I was interrupted as anti-Semitic.
Very
Where
sad.
do we come? If you quote in Germany the chief of Shin Bet, you get interrupted as anti-Semitic. I mean, I don't see a clear way, but I'm always a pessimist and an optimist. You know, miracles happen. It's very sad conclusion, but I think usually solutions become either we didn't suffer enough. I think, would you agree from Germany that in spite of all the complaint, economic crisis, blah, 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 with the exception of Ukraine, we, west of Ukraine, yes, crisis, but we still live relatively safe, comfortable lives.
Yeah,
And with
comparing
all
to
our
others, you mean.
sympathy for Ukraine, Gaza, and so on, our basic view is still, yeah, we should support them, but not too
To
much
some
so that
extent.
we will not put in danger our safe way of life. We will have to do something here. As long as Europe will play this game, Europe will disappear as a serious geopolitical fact.
All right, let's wrap up with a simple or hopefully simple question to lighten the mood. It's an old question, but it's never old for me. Why do you consider love as a political category, since it's generally accepted that political decision making should prioritize rationality over romanticism, and considering that romanticism has historically led to racist ideologies and significant catastrophes, why do you regard love as a political category?
Here my situation is more complex. It's a very good question. First, of course, I'm not a complete idiot. I'm well aware of the ambiguity of the term love in politics. Theodor Adorno, of all guys, of Frankfurt School, he said
Frankfurt School,
somewhere
yeah.
that only authoritarian regimes use love as the legitimizing category.
Exactly.
Like today in North Korea, you have to cry love for Kim Jong-un, you know,
Yeah.
totalitarian. Yeah, so here, but when I talk about love, it's not, first I more think about love in the sense of the Christian Holy Spirit, which is simply solidarity with those your comrades with whom you build a community. It's not love directed against an enemy. It's a sense of solidarity, but I'm well aware. For me, I'm much more attracted by the notion of love as I'm not here a male chauvinist. It can be towards a man, whoever, I don't care. But intense sexual love, what I like about it is that it's absolutely exclusive and destabilizing. You know, I always use this example. Take, I don't know, sorry, I'm not imputing any, but let's take you live a normal life. You don't have passionate love. You go out with friends. I don't know. I'm just
Okay.
speculating. Maybe a one night stand here and there, but nothing serious. Then you passionately,
Yeah.
absolutely fall in love. Your life is ruined. You think about this, you know, this is the love that I want. This absolutely destabilizing love. Not this Buddhist smile, love for all of humanity. No, 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 no. I love you, and I don't care if the whole world goes to hell. You know, there is something so beautiful, unbalanced about this love that this is what attracts me. And some people try to convince me that this is typical European. No, it's not. I at least know some examples from traditional Japanese literature. They also have this notion of it happens like a divine miracle, this absolute love.
We also have this notion of love, but with different versions or different maybe levels of it, and it's very problematic. However, you might find it in literature, poetry, not very much in philosophy. So I think it's not theorized enough in philosophy as it is in Western philosophy.
Yeah, but it's theorized in a wrong way, usually. I think that we don't have time, sorry, to go into this now, that we have this notion of so-called l'amour courtois, courtly love,
Courtly love, yes.
which is, I think, murderous. For me, this is not true love. You idealize a woman, and then you do it like Dante or every poet. You have one woman
Yeah.
idealized up there, and then you screw around with ordinary.
Absolutely. Yes.
As you
Yes.
want, you know. No. For me, the true miracle of authentic sexual love is that you don't idealize the partner. You see all of the partners are small, but in spite of all the small
Flaws and
mistakes,
mistakes.
whatever,
Yes.
as such, as imperfect, she is your absolute, or he your absolute ideal. This is the miracle of love for me. True love doesn't idealize. The love which idealizes the partner can easily turn murderous because the real person never fits the ideal, you know.
Thank you, Slavoj, very
Thank
much.
you very much. And if you want something, I do you now, it will be, don't be afraid, a very friendly suggestion, gesture, but I cannot put it in my evil way. Do you need a good psychiatrist to cure you? Because if you are translating my less than nothing, then this is a serious kind of mental derangement. You know?
I definitely need one, but I need yours.